They cuff the black delivery driver on the sidewalk while the rich gated community watches. She's in a cheap courier uniform, wrists burning, phone taken away, treated like a suspect, not a worker. She looks straight at the deputy and says, calm,
"My name is Lena Harris. I'm a senior investigator for the State Human Rights Commission, and I'm investigating your sheriff's office."
He laughs in her face. He has no idea this exact moment will be replayed in a public hearing, with his badge, his voice, and his choices on a giant screen. By the time Lena Harris turns onto the frontage road outside Phoenix, the sun is a smear of orange behind the low desert hills, and her delivery van is covered in a thin skin of dust. The scanner on the seat beside her chirps every few seconds with new stops, new reminders that she is officially hours behind. The company wants 70 packages done before midnight. She will be lucky to hit 50. She rolls her shoulders, flexes her fingers around the steering wheel, and forces herself to breathe in through her nose, out through her mouth. It is not the late hour or the backlog that has her jaw clenched. It is the blue folder wedged between the seat and the center console, thick with printouts and handwritten notes. On the tab, someone in the office wrote in block letters, Maricopa County Sheriff Pattern Review. Lena taps the folder with the back of her hand as she slows for the next turn. 3 months of complaints. 6 years of traffic stop data, dozens of interviews with people who still flinch when they see a tan uniform and a 6-pointed star. It is her job to make sense of all of it. Senior Investigator, State Human Rights Commission. Lead on the preliminary inquiry into discriminatory stops along the North Corridor. Tonight, though, she is just the woman in the dusty khaki uniform, the one who scans and smiles and puts boxes on porches, the one no one remembers until something goes wrong. The gated community rises out of the darkness like a mirage. Stucco walls, a stone monument with brushed metal letters. Canyon Ridge Estates. Sodium lamps bathe the entry in pale yellow. A guard booth sits to the right of the gate like a small glass aquarium. A man in a navy polo shirt hunched inside over a phone. Lena checks the address on her scanner, then double-checks the house number printed on the largest box in the back. This is the right place. Unit 27B. Delivery window before 9 p.m. She is late but still within company grace. She pulls up to the call box. Before she can punch in the code printed on her manifest, the guard steps out of the booth, one hand up, the other holding his phone. Evening, Lena calls through the open window, letting her voice stay light and professional. Delivery for 27B. Harris Parcel Services. The guard's eyes travel from the company logo on her shirt to her face, then to the old van with its mismatched rear door. His mouth tightens. Gates closed for deliveries after 8, he says. Policy. Lena glances at the manifest. The receiver scheduled a late drop. It's in the system. I've got meds in here that need to be refrigerated. He shrugs. Not my problem. We've had a scam going on, people in fake uniforms, fake vans, folks losing packages, credit cards, everything. The sheriff told us to lock it down. There it is, she thinks. The pretext. Look, she says, you can call the house, or I can buzz them from the box. They know I'm coming. The guard narrows his eyes. Why don't you step out of the vehicle for me? Her fingers tighten on the wheel. Sir, I'm just trying to finish my route. And I'm just trying to keep these people safe. He is already lifting his phone toward the van, angling it to record. The red light on the camera app stares at her like a small, unblinking eye. We've had a fraud ring running packages through here. You match it. I match a fraud ring, Lena repeats, letting the words hang. Black woman in a beat-up van after dark, saying she's got meds and codes to get through the gate, he says. Yeah, you match it. Heat flares in Lena's chest, sharp and familiar. She feels the old instinct to argue, to list credentials, to say, I graduated top of my class. I briefed the Attorney General last month. I have more authority in this state than your entire HOA. Instead, she exhales slowly. Do you want my company ID? She asks. My route sheet? I can show you the scanner. Everything's logged. He hesitates, then jerks his chin toward the gate. Sheriff's deputy is on the way. He'll handle it. Lena glances in the side mirror. Sure enough, over the rise in the road, a faint wash of red and blue is already growing brighter. The cruiser pulls in behind her, close enough that the light bar paints the interior of her van in pulses of color. The world narrows to the flash, the rumble of the engine, the dry taste in her mouth. Lena has interviewed dozens of people about moments like this. She has typed their words into affidavits, circled phrases like, "I did everything they told me to do, and I thought if I stayed calm, they'd see." Now she is in the story with them. The deputy climbs out, mid-30s, sunburnt at the neck, buzz cut growing out into a brush. His name tag reads Harlan. He takes in the van, the uniform, Lena's face. Whatever decision he makes it in the space of a heartbeat, and it shows in the way his shoulders set. "Evening," he says. "License and registration." "It's a company vehicle," Lena says, keeping her hands where he can see them on the wheel. "I've got my license and my employee ID. Go ahead and reach for them, slow." She moves slowly, narrating each motion the way people in her interviews always described. I said, "I'm reaching into my pocket now, sir," and feels the absurdity of it even as she speaks. The deputy watches every inch of her movement, one hand hovering near his holster. When she passes him her license and the laminated badge, he barely glances at the name. "Step out of the van, Miss Harris." Her stomach drops. "Is there a problem, deputy?" "We've had reports of a fraud ring working these gated communities," he says. "Fake drivers, fake scanners, stealing packages, skimming numbers. You were trying to access the gate after hours. That's enough for me to check things out." "That's enough for you to talk to me," she says carefully. "Maybe call dispatch, confirm my route with the company. It's all in the system." He jerks his thumb toward the shoulder of the road. "Out of the van! Now!" The guard has stepped back but keeps filming, the phone steady in his hand. Behind the stucco wall, silhouettes gather on upstairs balconies. People peering through railings, phone screens glowing like a second set of stars. Lena steps down from the van. The night air is cooler than she expected, the desert smell sharp in her nostrils. She stands where the deputy indicates, gravel shifting under her boots. "Pop the back," he orders. "There are controlled meds in there," she says. "Company policy says I'm responsible for every—" He cuts her off with a look. "Either you open it or I call for a warrant and tow the whole thing. Your choice." For a moment she thinks of saying no on principle, forcing him to write down his probable cause, to put words to the hunch he's leaning on. But there are insulin kits and asthma inhalers in the back of the van, and people waiting for them who do not know that a gate guard's suspicion is about to reroute their night. She hits the latch. The rear doors swing open with a squeal. Cardboard boxes in neat rows, each with a barcode, a name, a promise. Harlan whistles low. "That's a lot of opportunity," he says. "Take that scanner. Start logging every package you say is supposed to come in here." He makes her climb up into the van and begin moving boxes to the edge. Each time the scanner chirps, it stamps time, date, GPS coordinates, a digital trail she knows she will use later. Right now, it feels like counting her own breaths while someone holds a hand on her chest. "Seems like overkill, deputy," the guard says. But he does not sound concerned for Lena. He sounds excited, like a man who has called in about a strange car and been rewarded with a show. "Fraud ring's been hitting Thurman, Mesa Vista, and here," Harlan says, loud enough for the people on the balconies to hear. "They use real company gear, real vans, but the paperwork never matches. We're going to see what matches tonight." He pulls one of the boxes she has set aside and reads the label. "This say Peterson, 19C. Your scanner say the same?" Lena swallows. "Yes, you can see—" He snatches the scanner from her hand, squinting at the screen. "These things are easy to fake. My nephew could write an app that makes it beep." It is nonsense. She knows it, he knows it. Anyone who has ever worked a route knows it. But the guard laughs, and someone on a balcony snorts, and suddenly the narrative is on his side. "Deputy," Lena says quietly, "you're making a mistake." "Everyone says that," he replies. "Turn around, hands behind your back." She stares at him. "You're arresting me." "Detaining you," he corrects, though the cuffs he snaps around her wrists feel no different from any she has documented in her reports. "Investigative detention. You're not under arrest yet." The cold bite of metal shocks her, a bright line of pain where the edge digs into skin. The guard's phone moves with her, faithfully capturing each small wince. Someone on a balcony calls down, Get the ringleader, deputy. Lena's cheeks burn, not with shame, but with a white, hot anger she swallows hard to keep from spilling over. Deputy Harlan, she says, forcing each word out evenly. My name is Lena Harris. I work for the State Human Rights Commission as a senior investigator. I am currently assigned to an inquiry into your sheriff's office. I strongly suggest you verify my identity with your watch commander before you go any further. For a heartbeat, something like doubt flickers across his face. It is gone almost instantly, wiped away by a smirk. Sure you are, he says. And I'm the governor. Seen the YouTube videos. Everybody's a lawyer or a judge or a civil rights. What do you call it when the cuffs come out? He nods toward the open van. We're done here. She fits our pattern. We've got suspicious behavior. We've got a non-cooperative driver at a closed gate. That's probable cause enough. He guides her toward the cruiser with a hand on her elbow that is just a shade too firm, the kind of touch that can be explained as maintaining control in a report. The gravel digs into the rubber soles of her boots. The cruiser's back door yawns open like a small padded mouth. On the balconies, phones are still recording. Somewhere behind the wall, a dog barks. In Lena's chest, her heart hammers against bone not from panic but from calculation. Time, place, witnesses, cameras, audio. She files each detail away. The scanner logs, the dispatch tapes. The way he said fits our pattern. The way a woman with a child on her hip whispered something to her neighbor, and both of them nodded like they had just watched a problem get removed. The door closes on her with a heavy, final thud. The world narrows to hard plastic seats and the smell of old vinyl and desert dust. Through the metal screen, she can see the back of Harlan's head as he radios in the stop, his voice cool and professional. Unit 12, show me out with a suspicious courier at Canyon Ridge Estates. Possible fraud ring connection. I'll be transporting one female to the substation for further questioning. He does not say her name. He does not say that she told him who she was. Lena leans her head back against the padded wall and closes her eyes. She breathes in through her nose, out through her mouth, counting the seconds. This is the story, she thinks, but it is not the ending. She has spent years teaching people how to document what happens to them. Tonight, she will follow her own instructions. And in a few weeks, when the fluorescent lights of a county hearing room shine down on this moment, Deputy Cole Harlan will hear his own words played back to him line by line in front of people who finally have the power to do something about it. The cruiser bumps off the asphalt onto a side road, then onto the main highway. Through the narrow slice of window, she can see the desert sliding past in streaks of gray and black. The red and blue reflection pulses faintly on the guard booth glass as they pull away. The man in the navy polo lifts his phone higher, tracking the retreating lights like a fisherman watching a line go taut. Dispatch crackles through the radio, a woman's voice flat and precise. Unit 12, confirm transport. Any further units needed? Negative, Harlan answers. One in custody. I'll advise when we arrive. He sounds proud. He sounds like a man who believes he just did something brave. The substation is a low, squat building behind a strip mall, its windows barred, its parking lot lit by unforgiving LED floods. Harlan parks around back where nobody but other deputies and the occasional repairman ever sees who comes and goes. He opens the rear door and helps her out in a way that is technically careful and technically gentle, but still more forceful than it needs to be. Inside, the air smells of stale coffee and industrial cleaner. A metal bench runs along one wall, bolted to the floor. A poster about opioid abuse curls at the corners near the vending machine. A young deputy at the booking counter glances up. Evening, Cole. What you got? Possible fraud ring runner, Harlan says. Name's Lena Harris. Claims she's some kind of state investigator. The way he says it makes it clear what he thinks of that claim. The younger deputy, badged Lopez, raises his eyebrows. For a second, Lena sees something like curiosity there. Then it's gone, smoothed over by routine. All right, Ms. Harris, we're going to take your property. Empty your pockets onto the tray. I'll remove the cuffs once we're done. She turns her hands as far as they will go. It is clumsy work, fishing her phone and keys out with her fingers stiffened by metal. Harlan sighs, impatient, and finally unlocks one cuff, keeping hold of the other like a leash while she deposits her things. Her company phone, her personal phone, the worn leather wallet her sister bought her years ago, the blue folder from the van. Lopez taps it with a pen. "What's this?" "Work files," she says, "confidential. We'll log it and hold on to it till you're released." He writes "folder, docs" on a sticker and slaps it across the tab, as if renaming it could strip it of its contents. "We're going to put you in a holding cell while we sort this out," Harlan announces. "You'll get a phone call. If you cooperate, this will go faster." She thinks of the video being uploaded from someone's phone already, the way the internet can strip context away and turn people into symbols. Fast is a relative term. The holding cell is a concrete room barely wider than her outstretched arms. One metal bench, one stainless steel toilet with no seat. The fluorescent light hums overhead with a thin, incessant buzz. Lopez removes the cuff from her wrist and steps back through the door. "You want your phone call now, ma'am?" "Yes," she says. He leads her back out to the hallway phone, cuffs one wrist to a metal ring in the wall, and hands her the receiver. "Local numbers only," he says, "and the call may be monitored." She dials from memory. The number for the commission's duty attorney, the one they rotate weekly for emergencies, the one currently assigned to her friend and sometimes sparring partner, Malik Okafor. He answers on the second ring, voice groggy. "This is Malik." "Don't say my name," she murmurs, "and don't ask questions. I'm safe. I'm at the North County substation as an investigative detention connected to a so-called fraud ring at Canyon Ridge Estates. I need you to do 3 things." There is a pause, the sound of sheets rustling, a lamp clicking on. "I'm listening." "First, log this call as a commission contact," she says. "Time, date, everything. Second, I need a preservation request sent tonight to the sheriff's office, the HOA at Canyon Ridge, and my company. All camera footage, all dispatch audio, all patrol car video, and every entry in my scanner from 6 p.m. onward. Third," she glances down the hallway. Harlan is at a desk pretending not to listen. Lopez is filing forms. "Third, I need you to trust that I know what I'm doing," she finishes. "Don't come get me. Don't call anyone here. Meet me at the County Administration Building 2 weeks from Thursday, 9 a.m., hearing room C." There's a soft exhale on the line. "Lena, what did they—" "I'm fine," she says. "And I'm not a victim tonight. I'm a witness. Treat me like one." Another pause. "All right," Malik says quietly. "Hearing room C, 2 Thursdays from now. You know this is going to explode, right?" "It was going to explode anyway," she replies. "This way, we get to aim it." She hears the scratch of his pen as he writes, the tiny bureaucratic miracle of an official note taken at the right time. "I've got you," he says. "Call me when they cut you loose." She hangs up. Lopez uncuffs her and guides her back to the cell. Hours blur. The bench scrapes her shoulder blades. Time stretches, thins. At some point, another woman is brought in, drunk and loud, then falls asleep, sitting up, head tipped back against the wall, mouth open. At some point, the noise of the station dims as the clock tilts toward 3, 4, 5 in the morning. In the quiet, Lena goes back over every detail of the stop. The guard's words, the exact phrasing Harlan used: "fits our pattern," "possible fraud ring," "non-cooperative." She repeats them under her breath until they lose their sting and become what they are: evidence. She thinks about the charts in the folder, the ones showing how black and brown drivers along the North Corridor are stopped at 3 times the rate of white drivers, how citations and searches cluster around neighborhoods like Canyon Ridge, like scar tissue around an old wound. Tonight, the statistic got a face. Hers. When the metal door finally rattles open hours later and a different deputy tells her she's free to go pending further review, the sky outside has gone from black to a pale, indifferent gray. Her wrists are sore where the cuffs dug in, faint lines rising on her skin. Lopez returns her property in a manila envelope, one item at a time, as if they are pieces of a life she can only reclaim with a signature. "Will I be charged?" she asks. He shrugs. "That's above my pay grade, ma'am." "Right," she says and tucks the blue folder under her arm. Outside, the desert morning is cool and sharp. Her van waits where they left it, boxes still stacked inside, each one a testament to a simple truth. She was working. She was doing her job. She rests her hand on the steering wheel for a moment before starting the engine. 2 weeks, she thinks. Hearing room C. If the sheriff's office wants to argue that what happened tonight fits a pattern, she will be happy to agree. She will just define the pattern differently, and this time, she will put it on the record where everyone can see. 2 weeks later, hearing room C looks like every other windowless government space Lena has ever worked in. Cheap chairs, beige walls, fluorescent lights flickering faintly in the corners. What makes it different is the number of cameras lining the back wall, local news crews, a couple of independent reporters, someone from a national outlet whose logo she recognizes, eyebrows lifted in that way that means, this might be a story. On the dais, 5 members of the County Board of Supervisors shuffle papers and check their phones. A small brass plaque in front of the center chair reads, Chairperson Ruiz. To their right, a table for the sheriff and his counsel. To their left, a table for complainants and witnesses. Lena sits at the left table with Malik and a woman from the Commission's Statistics Unit named Priya Patel. Her blue folder has grown into a binder, its spine labeled in thick black letters. Canyon Ridge Incident and Related Patterns. Her courier uniform is gone. In its place, a dark suit, a simple blouse, a badge on a lanyard that bears the state seal and the words Human Rights Commission, Senior Investigator. Across the room, Sheriff Douglas Pike leans toward his attorney and whispers something, his jaw tight. Next to them, in a plain tan dress uniform, sits Deputy Cole Harlan. Lena watches his fingers drum on the table, the way he keeps glancing toward the cameras, then back at the door as if expecting someone to swoop in and declare all this a misunderstanding. He looks different, without the cruiser's light strobing behind him. Smaller, somehow. Less sure. Chairperson Ruiz raps her gavel. We are now in session for the special oversight hearing regarding traffic stop practices by the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, with particular focus on the incident at Canyon Ridge Estates on the evening of the 15th. Investigator Harris, are you ready to proceed with your presentation? Yes, Madam Chair, Lena says, and her voice sounds steady even to her own ears. Malik nudges the laptop in front of her. The county's AV tech, a man in a polo shirt with a badge clipped to his belt, gives her a thumbs up from the back of the room. She stands and approaches the podium. The microphone amplifies the rustle of paper as she opens the binder. For the record, she begins, my name is Lena Harris. I am a senior investigator with the State Human Rights Commission, assigned to lead the preliminary pattern and practice inquiry into the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office. On the evening in question, I was working an authorized secondary employment position as a courier for Harris Parcel Services, conducting scheduled deliveries. The incident we are here to discuss happened while I was performing that job. There's a murmur from the gallery at the word incident. People remember the leaked video from the gated community, the one that hit social media the morning after her detention. Delivery While Black trended for 3 days. The clip is less than a minute long, shaky footage of Lena in cuffs, the guard's triumphant narration layered over the deputy's voice, but it was enough to turn this from an internal complaint into a public spectacle. We're aware of the video, investigator, Supervisor Hahn says, flipping through his copy of the packet. What we need from you today is the context. Of course, Lena says. I'll start with the specific event and then show how it fits into a broader pattern. She nods to the AV tech. The lights dim slightly as the screens on the wall flicker to life. Exhibit 1, Lena says. Patrol car dash cam footage from Unit 12 recorded by Deputy Harlan's vehicle on October 15th at 21:47 hours. The footage was preserved pursuant to a request from this commission within 4 hours of the incident. The video begins. The van at the gate, the guard stepping out, the wash of red and blue. Lena narrates, keeping her tone clinical, letting the images speak. At this point, I had already identified myself as a courier, presented my company identification, and explained the late-night delivery window. The gate guard declined to verify the delivery with the resident and instead called for a deputy based on a general concern about a so-called fraud ring. No specific description was provided. On screen, they all watch Deputy Harlan approach the driver's side window. In the front row, a woman in a Canyon Ridge HOA sweatshirt shifts uncomfortably in her seat. They hear the audio as he orders her out of the van, as he insists that the scanner could be fake, as he tells her she fits our pattern. The phrase hangs in the room like smoke. "Pause there," Lena says. The AV tech freezes the frame. Harlan's face is captured mid-sentence, mouth open, hand resting near his weapon. "Deputy Harlan," Chairperson Ruiz says, leaning toward her microphone. "When you said our pattern, what did you mean?" All eyes turn to him. He clears his throat. His voice, when it comes, is hoarse. "We'd received briefings, ma'am, about fraud rings using delivery vans to—" "Do you have those briefings with you?" Ruiz interrupts. Harlan glances at the sheriff. Pike's attorney, a narrow-faced man named Cale, slides a folder across. "Madam Chair," Cale cuts in smoothly. "We have general bulletins about criminal activity in gated communities, yes. None of them specify race. Any implication that Deputy Harlan was referring to a racial pattern would be speculative." Lena keeps her expression neutral, but she feels the little spark of satisfaction she always gets when someone walks into a trap she built out of nothing more than their own paperwork. "Exhibit 2, she says calmly. "Aggregate data on traffic stops and investigative detentions conducted by this office in the Canyon Ridge corridor over the last 30 months. Priya taps a key. The screen shifts to a bar graph, then a pie chart, then a table of numbers. "Over this period," Lena explains, "deputies conducted 148 stops in or immediately adjacent to gated communities in the corridor. Of those, 82 involved drivers identified as Black or Latino. In 68 of those 82, the stated reason for the stop was some version of suspicious presence or possible fraud ring activity, with no specific complainant description. By contrast, drivers identified as white were stopped under that vague category only 9 times. Supervisor Hans pen stills. "So you're saying—" "I'm saying the pattern is real," Lena replies, "but it doesn't describe criminals. It describes enforcement." On the sheriff's table, Pike shifts in his seat. His jaw muscles jump. "Now," Lena continues, "let's talk about the night in question." The screen returns to the dash cam footage, picking up where it left off. They watch Harlan make her open the van, watch her move box after box while the guard's phone tracks her every motion. Watch the cuffs go on. Lena feels every moment twice, once on the screen and once in the phantom memory of metal against skin. "Please pause again," she says when the image freezes on her turned back, hands behind her. "This is the point," she says, "where I informed Deputy Harlan of my position with the State Human Rights Commission and my current assignment to the preliminary inquiry into his office." There's another murmur. A reporter scribbles furiously in a notebook. "Madam Chair," Cale interjects, "we dispute the suggestion that Deputy Harlan understood Ms. Harris's claim to be credible at that time. Officers regularly encounter individuals misrepresenting their status to avoid lawful detention. Given the context, his skepticism—" "Exhibit 3, Lena says, cutting him off more sharply than she intended. "Dispatch audio from that same evening. The recording plays. Another deputy's voice. Control, be advised. We've got Human Rights Commission vehicles parked outside the courthouse again." Another voice, laughing. "Better watch your stops then. They're sniffing around our stats." Lena waits until the smile is drained from Cale's face. "As of that night," she says, "this office knew the commission was looking at them. They knew who we were. They knew what we did. So when Deputy Harlan chose to disregard my identification, that choice didn't happen in a vacuum." Chairperson Ruiz leans back. "Let's move to the scanner logs, investigator. I'm particularly interested in the claim in Deputy Harlan's report that you could not account for several packages and appeared evasive about destinations." "Gladly," Lena says. On screen, a new exhibit appears, a simple table pulled from the delivery company's database. Timestamp, GPS coordinate, parcel ID, signature status. "The handheld scanner I use," she explains for the board and the cameras, "records every action, every scan, every rescan, every attempt at delivery. On the night in question, it shows a perfectly ordinary sequence. You can see that every box in the van had a valid destination, and every package scheduled for Canyon Ridge had matching entries." She highlights a row. "This is the package I was trying to drop at Unit 27B when the gate guard stopped me. You can see the scheduled window, the access code, the customer's pre-approved late delivery note. None of that made it into Deputy Harlan's report. Cale shifts in his chair. Deputy Harlan didn't have access to those logs at the time. And I didn't have access to his training bulletins, Lena says. We both had parts of the picture. The difference is that my part is verifiable data, and his is a hunch shaped by months of vague memos and unchallenged assumptions. In the second row of the gallery, the woman in the Canyon Ridge sweatshirt raises her hand tentatively. Madam Chair, may I speak? Ruiz nods. You'll have time during public comment, Ms. Klein. We'll hear from Investigator Harris and then from the sheriff's office, and then we'll take community statements. The woman nods, cheeks flushed, and sinks back into her seat. Investigator Harris, Supervisor Hahn says, you've shown us the video, the data, and the logs. We need you to connect this to your role. How does your dual position as subject and investigator affect the validity of your conclusions? Lena meets his gaze. It is a fair question, the kind that will play well on the 10 o'clock news if she answers it wrong. It makes my conclusions more urgent, she says. Not because I was personally offended, but because I saw, in my own body, what the numbers have been telling us about this office for years. My job isn't to punish one deputy for a bad night. It's to show you whether this county's enforcement patterns are compatible with our civil rights laws. She clicks to the final slide. On it, in clear font, are her recommendations. Based on this incident and the larger pattern, she says, the Commission recommends the following. Creation of an independent complaint hotline not routed through the Sheriff's Office. Mandatory bias and de-escalation training for all deputies interacting with the public. Revised policies for cooperation with private security at gated communities. And an external audit of all suspicious presence stops in the last 5 years, with authority to refer egregious cases for prosecution under state and federal civil rights statutes. Silence settles over the room like dust over desert rock. Then Ruiz turns to the sheriff. Sheriff Pike, do you wish to respond? Pike leans into his mic. With respect, Madam Chair, our deputies are out there trying to keep people safe. They're dealing with real criminals, not just hypotheticals and charts. We've had break-ins, identity theft, stolen mail. Sheriff, Ruiz says, no one is disputing that crime exists. The question is who you decide looks like a criminal before you even know their name. All eyes swing back to Harlan. For the first time since the hearing began, he speaks without looking at his attorney. I was following training, he says. We were told to watch for delivery scams at night. I saw an older van, a driver out after hours, a gate guard who was nervous. I did what I thought I was supposed to do. Lena watches his hand. It trembles slightly on the tabletop. You were also told, she says quietly into her mic, that my agency was reviewing your office. You heard those jokes on the radio. Did it occur to you that the black woman with the badge claiming to be an investigator might actually be one? His jaw works. The cameras zoom in, hungry for the close-up. It didn't feel real, he admits, the words dragged from somewhere between pride and fear. People say all kinds of things when they're being detained. And when the scanner logs and the gate codes and my company's verification show everything matched, she presses, when dispatch could have confirmed my employment with a 30-second call, did that feel real? He doesn't answer. He doesn't have to. The silence is an answer the board can hear. The hearing stretches on. The sheriff's office presents their side, bulletins about fraud rings, mugshots of people who did use vans to steal, copies of community complaints. Then come the public comments, residents who admit they called about suspicious trucks that turned out to be gardeners or delivery drivers, a retired teacher who describes being stopped 3 times in 6 months while driving home from night classes, a teenage boy who says he walks the long way around Canyon Ridge now so he doesn't have to see the guard booth. Finally, Ruiz calls for a 15-minute recess so the board can confer in a back room. The low hum of voices swells as people stand and stretch. Reporters hurry toward the hallway to file early pieces. The sheriff talks quickly with his lawyer, gesturing in a way that would look aggressive on someone in handcuffs and emphatic on a man in a uniform with a badge shaped like his. Lena steps away from the table and leans against the cool cinder block wall near the water dispenser. Her knees feel shaky in a way they never did in the holding cell. Having power does not mean not being tired. "Hey." Malik appears at her elbow, offering a paper cone of water. "You were good up there." "Too sharp?" she asks. "Sharp enough they can't pretend they didn't know," he says. "That's the point." She sips the water. Across the room she catches Harlan watching her. His expression is not anger now, not entirely. There is something else in it. Confusion, maybe, or the first uncomfortable edge of recognition. He crosses the room slowly, ignoring the quick warning look from his attorney. "Investigator Harris," he says. "Lena?" She waits. "I shouldn't have said you fit a pattern," he says, the words low enough that only she can hear them. "I shouldn't have done most of what I did that night." Her throat tightens. "Are you apologizing because you regret it?" she asks. "Or because there are cameras here now?" He flinches but doesn't step back. "Both," he admits. "I thought I was being careful. I thought I was protecting people who live out there, but seeing it like this, I don't know. It looks different." "That's how patterns work," she says, her voice softer than she expected. "Up close, every stop feels justified. Step back, and it starts to look like something else." He nods once, then retreats to his table as the bailiff calls the room back to order. The board files back in. Chairperson Ruiz's face is grave, but there is a spark in her eyes that Lena recognizes, the look of someone who has decided to actually do something, knowing it will cost her. After reviewing the evidence and testimony presented, Ruiz begins, this board finds that the incident at Canyon Ridge Estates was not an isolated misjudgment, but part of a broader pattern of discriminatory enforcement by the sheriff's office in gated communities. A rumble goes through the room. "Accordingly," she continues, "we are directing the sheriff's office to implement the Human Rights Commission's recommendations in full. An independent complaint hotline will be established within 60 days. All suspicious presence stops will be logged with detailed justification and reviewed quarterly by a civilian oversight panel that includes representatives from affected communities. Deputies will undergo mandatory training designed and monitored by external experts. Further, we are referring the Canyon Ridge incident and related stops identified by the Commission to the State Attorney General for review under our civil rights statutes." She looks directly at Harlan. "Deputy, this board is also recommending that you be removed from patrol duty pending the outcome of that review. Whether you remain in law enforcement in this county will not be up to us, but we can say this much. What happened that night cannot continue as normal practice." Gavel, one sharp crack. Applause breaks out in the back of the room, tentative at first, then louder as people realize it's allowed. Lena exhales, a breath she feels like she has been holding since the gate guard raised his phone. Afterward, outside on the courthouse steps, microphones bloom toward her like desert flowers after rain. "Investigator Harris, do you feel vindicated? Is this enough, or do you plan to push for more? Do you think Deputy Harlan is a bad apple, or is the whole barrel rotten?" She chooses her words carefully, knowing that the clip will be cut down to 10 seconds and replayed with whatever headline someone needs. "This isn't about one deputy," she says. "It's about a system that trains certain people to see certain bodies as threats before they know anything about them. Today we took a step toward changing that system. It's not the last step we'll need, but it's more than a statement. It's structure. It's oversight. It's a place to call when something like this happens again." "Do you forgive him?" someone calls. Lena thinks of the cuffs, the guard's smirk, the way the word pattern felt in her ears that night. She thinks of him crossing the room during recess, of the way his voice shook. "I don't get to decide what forgiveness looks like for everyone who's been stopped like that," she says. "What I can do is help build a world where fewer people have to make that choice." Weeks pass. The hotline number goes up on bus shelters and billboards. Complaints surge, then taper as people test whether it works and begin, cautiously, to believe that it might. The first civilian oversight panel meets in a room even smaller than Hearing Room C and argues over details. How many days the sheriff's office gets to respond. How much data can be published without violating privacy. Lena sits at the back of that room as an advisor, listening, taking notes, resisting the urge to run it herself. It isn't her job to own every reform. Her job is to make sure they don't quietly die. One afternoon, as she walks through the lobby on her way to yet another meeting, a man steps hesitantly into her path. Early 30s, brown skin, delivery company polo. His name tag reads Jason. "Ms. Harris?" he asks. "The investigator?" She smiles. "That's me." "I work the East Side routes," he says. "Saw you on the news. Figured I should say thank you." "You don't owe me anything," she replies. He shifts his weight. "Couple weeks ago, security at Suncrest tried to call the sheriff on me. Said my van looked wrong. I told them there was a new hotline they could call instead. They backed off. Let me through." He laughs, short and disbelieving. "First time I've ever had a policy on my side." The warmth that floods her chest at that is different from the anger she carried out of the holding cell. This feeling is quieter, but it stays longer. "Then it's working," she says. "That's the point." She still drives routes sometimes when the commission paperwork lets her breathe. Not because she has to, but because she doesn't want the blue folder to be the only way she touches the lives behind the statistics. One evening, months after the hearing, she pulls up outside Canyon Ridge again. The stucco walls, the stone monument, the guard booth, they are all the same. But the man inside the booth is different, younger, darker-skinned. When she rolls down her window, he smiles. "Evening, ma'am. Delivery?" "Unit 27B, she says. He checks his screen. "Got you in here, gates open for you, and, He hesitates. "For what it's worth, I saw the clip. The hearing. My aunt lives over in Mesa Vista, and she says folks are talking." "In a good way," Lena nods. "Tell your aunt we're not done yet," she says. "But I'm glad she's talking." The gate slides open. As she drives through, she glances in the mirror. The van is still dusty. Her hands still ache some nights from too many boxes carried too many stairs. The world outside the walls is still full of patrol cars and hunches and people who think pattern is just another word for profile. But somewhere in the sheriff's office, a deputy filling out a report knows that his scanner logs and his vague suspicions might end up on a screen in hearing room C. Somewhere in a gated community, a guard hesitates before reaching for the phone, wondering if maybe he should check the manifest first. And somewhere inside the state archive, a file stamped Maricopa County Sheriff. Pattern Review now contains in careful black ink one more line. In the matter of the detention of investigator Lena Harris, the pattern was clear. The question was whether we were brave enough to name it. Lena pulls up in front of 27B, grabs the familiar box, and walks toward the door. The porch light clicks on as she approaches, warm and ordinary. She smiles to herself. Sometimes, justice looks like a gavel and a headline. Sometimes it looks like a package delivered on time to the right address without anyone deciding you don't belong on the doorstep.